What's up, guys? I'm Joe. Today I'm talking about the new Sons of Apollo album, Psychotic Symphony. So, Sons of Apollo, they're here with their debut album. They're a sort of progressive metal, hard rock supergroup, also known as Mike Portnoy's 20th band this year. I don't know if it's 20, but it's probably something along those lines. I was never the biggest Dream Theater fan in the world. I could appreciate what they were doing musically. I loved to hear the sort of intricate type stuff that was going on, but the songs just never quite resonated with me. I mean, obviously they have some great tracks, but it was never enough for me to fully dive into the band and want to take the time to really know those records. I think another part of that was just an abundance of very long epic tracks. I'm a fan of long tracks. I love when Iron Maiden does them, when Metallica does them. Plenty of bands have done them, Led Zeppelin, but I think I like them more kind of few and far between. Maybe one or two epic tracks per album. And that's why I don't think I ever really fully dived into Dream Theater and fully knew the music by heart like I do with a lot of other bands. But nevertheless, I've been following along with Mike Portnoy's various musical outings over the last couple of years. My personal favorite being the Winery Dogs, which features Billy Sheehan on bass, who's also in this band Sons of Apollo, and Richie Kotzen on guitar and vocals. I love the Winery Dogs. Their first two records are fantastic. They have a slew of live stuff as well, and they're just a very cohesive group. I definitely hope they come out with a third record. I reviewed their latest live album. But yeah, I mean, especially with Winery Dogs being out there, I've been very tuned into Mike's various side projects, he considers them full-fledged bands, but, some are more short-lived than others. This one, Sons of Apollo, honestly one that does feel like a cohesive unit to me. Also features Derek Sherinian on the keyboards. He was in Dream Theater. He's currently in Black Country Communion, another band that came out with a great record this year. You have Jeff Soto on vocals, who's been in a slew of bands. Bumblefoot on guitar, who's been around for a while at this point, most recently in Guns N' Roses. What I like about this record is that, while you do have those progressive sides to it, it's definitely marketed as a return to progressive metal from Mike Portnoy. I definitely feel like he's trying to fill in the gaps left from Dream Theater on this record. It doesn't totally overtake it, and there is a great balance of hard rock and, song-oriented pieces as well on here. And I think that's why I'm really enjoying this one. It seems to be kind of hit or miss with people. People either really like it or they don't so much. What I like about it is that mix. It's not a whole progressive metal album, but it's also not just a hard rock album or, a bunch of short songs and stuff like that. There's a nice mix. And the song Lost in Oblivion, which is one of my favorites on here, it definitely exemplifies that mix of sound. You get the progressive side, the weird time signatures, the sort of noodling guitars. The addition of Billy Sheehan into this band is fantastic because he can mimic that crazy guitar stuff so well on the bass. And it leads to some very exciting musical moments on here, especially on the song Lost in Oblivion. That whole middle section is really fantastic. But what I like about it is they have verses that can stick in your head. They have chorus melodies that are very arena rock friendly and very hard rock oriented. There's definitely a lot of 80s metal, 80s hard rock influence going on here, which I do appreciate a lot. So while you get your fair share of guitar dueling and crazy drums and keyboards and stuff like that, all sorts of intricacies going on, they're also based in melody and based in songs that really hold it all together. Another song I like to point out, Divine Addiction, it doesn't really get into that progressive side. It sticks more to the hard rock, but it is an absolute favorite of mine on here. I can see how that might not be a popular choice because it seems like a pretty standard song, but I am just loving the Deep Purple influences on here. That keyboard that opens it up, you would think it was a Deep Purple song. I was like, is this their song? Is this a Deep Purple song? I had to actually check. It just resonates so well. It's not a total ripoff of them, but they're really channeling that, but with a sort of heavier metal edge, which makes for just a really great track. The first two singles didn't have me that excited about the record. I think Coming Home's a pretty decent song. It kind of sticks more to the hard rock vibe. I don't love the vocal melodies going on here. Those 80s vibes are definitely in full force here, with the sort of dramatic opening and, Mike hitting the cymbals and throwing in fills. It sounds very much, like Welcome to the Jungle or something like that. The way the keyboard hits, kind of reminds me of The Who, which obviously isn't 80s, but It kind of has those influences going on. And especially that bridge section where it really takes things down, really channeling the 80s rock. Signs of the Time is definitely one that grew on me as I heard it more in the course of the record. It opens up with a nice, heavy, meaty kind of riff. Definitely has those progressive tendencies on here. You're getting some odd time signatures and stuff like that. Some great drumming from Mike Portnoy. What I really love about this song is the bridge section. It's very atmospheric. You get the sort of freeing kind of guitar solo on here. Kind of just feels like you're flying, and I think it works really well as it builds up and eventually, closes out with that chorus again. And there are your fair share of the sort of epic longer tracks on here, ranging from 9 to 11 minutes, all three of them. But I think that's just enough. It's not overdoing it. It's not making the album overlong. I don't think these songs overstay their welcome in any way. They all work very effectively for me. Interestingly, the closing track, Opus Maximus, which has no vocals in it, is probably the most fun and exciting to listen to out of these epic ones. It just takes you through various musical passages. Everyone's talents get put on display here. Just a lot of movements and a lot of things going on, some highs and lows and stuff like that, which makes for a very interesting track and very effective closing. God of the Sun is a pretty good opener. I like that it, sort of takes the time to get going. It builds up the anticipation, and then it comes in with these crushing riffs. Some pretty heavy stuff going on in the beginning there. But what I like is when the verses come in, it's very groove-oriented. It's nice to see Mike Portnoy, who, him and Derek are pretty much leading this band. They're in charge of the songwriting, stuff like that. Very much in control of what's going on. Nice to see him not fully going back into the progressive realm. With the groove going on in this track, it's got its progressive moments, but it's got these groovy verses. I think it's really showing what he's kind of picked up on from working with bands like the Winery Dogs, to just sometimes let the song breathe and, reel everything in, and eventually, that allows those explosive moments to really hit hard and really stand out. Which this song does. It goes into some very great solos. It goes into some even more crushing heavy riffs throughout the end there. Overall, very effective opener. Which out of the epic tracks leaves Labyrinth, which is probably one of the weirder songs on here as far as the progressive elements go. Some very psychedelic parts in here also. I like that the song kind of, starts off in a more slow driving way before building itself into this, very intricate, pretty crazy progressive section. And again, everyone's talents are put on full display here. So I think I left out the song Alive. That's probably, one of the more standard tracks on here, much like Coming Home is. Sort of a ballad, power ballad type song. Not too much to say about that one. It doesn't really stand out to me like some of these other tracks do. But overall, pretty solid album. I would like to see them stick around and see where they go next. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I do enjoy it. Let me know what you think of the album in the comments, whether you liked it, whether you hated it. There's plenty of other reviews up and coming up. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time.